Alright, what's up and how's it going, guys? I'm your host, Jacob Nestor, and we are in the closet. As per usual, today I'm with Nick. Nick, how's it going? What's up?
Hey, what's up?
No,
It's going well.
chilling up there. Nick just got off work. I'm going to work right after this, recording in the tight schedule that we got. Today we're also joined by Kasey, chilling down there. What's up, Kasey?
Hey,
Big chillin'.
doing good.
Right on. Alrighty.
Big chillin'.
So, yeah, a few days ago we got together and we watched most of these. Nick wasn't able to join us for the third one, but me and Kasey watched the first three. We've already seen Fury Road a few times. Talking about Mad Max Day, obviously. But before all that, we're gonna do the what we've been watching segment. So let's start out with Nick. You got anything you've been watching you want to talk about?
I haven't been watching too much this week. I've been kind of busy.
Yeah.
I did finish a movie that I was in the middle of watching. Took me like 3 days to finish it. But Project Power, it's the new movie on Netflix.
I actually checked that out. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I did. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Oh, really?
I
I thought it was
yeah.
kind of mid.
Really?
But yeah. I had a lot of issues with it, but
Okay.
in general, it's a really fun movie, and it's definitely like a total. Even though I think it's rated R, it's like a total family movie. Like it totally
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. It is.
I-
Even though there's definitely like some gore, some blood.
Right. Oh yeah, there's some fucking crazy ass like
Yeah.
gore in it, but it's fun. I like it. I mean, it's got its issues,
It's a good time.
but it's a good time. It's a perfect Netflix movie. Other
I
than
agree.
that, man, like I've been really just keeping up with the Yellowstone series, season 3 right now.
Yellowstone.
I've talked about this. Yeah, I talked about this once before, a
That's
few
right.
podcasts ago. So
Yeah. Okay. I do remember.
yeah, it's the Taylor Sheridan project that he's doing with Kevin Costner and.
Right on. That's still good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I enjoy it, and that's pretty much it for this week. Yeah.
Nice.
Other than
Okay.
I watched Mad Max 2 basically for the first time, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was. We'll talk about it. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Kasey, what about you? You've been watching anything the past week or so?
Yeah. I was kind of late to the party, but I watched Parasite recently.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah. Obviously I'd heard a lot of good things about it, and I managed to stay spoiler free. I
Oh,
really had
wow.
no idea what it was about.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, it was such a fun movie to watch. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm a massive Parasite stan, Bong Joon-ho stan, one of my favorite directors of all time, for sure. Parasite's one of the best. I'm really glad you got around to watching that and that you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That movie's really a fucking treat, for sure.
Yeah. And other than that, I've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And this
hell
is,
yeah.
Yeah.
this is a rewatch for you, right?
Well, when I was a kid, I
Oh,
watched it.
okay.
It's a rewatch for everyone, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I fucking love Last Airbender, bro.
Big
Not the
fan.
movie, but the show.
Oh,
Is,
obviously.
is,
You don't have to.
spectacular.
You don't even have to say that.
Spectacular.
Of course. Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Right on. I usually, as per usual, I do have a lot of free time with my work schedule. So I've been watching quite a bit of stuff this past week. I gotta start Lovecraft County. Have you heard that? It's a new show on HBO Max. Has Jonathan Majors, one of my favorite up-and-coming stars, who's under 30 right now. He was in Last Black Man in San Francisco. He's in The Five Bloods. He is a really phenomenal actor. It's this new HBO Max series. I don't really want to give away too much about it. It's based on a book called Lovecraft County. It deals with Lovecraft creatures and racial injustice in the 1950s, and it's really fucking interesting. And I really enjoyed the first episode.
Is it Lovecraft County or country?
I thought it was county. I could have completely messed it up. I thought it was Lovecraft County. Let me look it up real quick.
But I started
it's
watching
country.
this as well,
You're
actually.
right. I just loved
It's
it.
all good.
Lovecraft Country.
It's all good. I actually started watching this as well. HBO did the smartest thing a streaming service could do. They put the episode for free on like YouTube and their website.
Really?
The first episode for
Okay.
free.
Tight.
So I started watching it, and so far it's good. I gotta finish the episode probably after this podcast. But
First episode's super
immediately I can tell
enjoyable.
that,
Yeah, episode 2 will be airing tonight. It's a weekly thing, airing each episode every single week. It's 9 p.m. 9 p.m. on Fridays, and so I'm gonna be checking that out later tonight at work probably, and I'm super excited for episode 2.
Nice.
Hope, yeah, it's very enjoyable. I also I caught Vivre sa vie. It's an old French movie by Jean-Luc Godard. It's one of his early on stuff, and I'm really glad I got to watch this, and I'm really glad I enjoyed it, because I had seen another movie by Jean-Luc Godard, his first movie, Breathless, probably his most famous one of the most famous movies of the French New Wave movement, and I kind of just straight up hated it. It was pretty fucking horrible, honestly. It was
boring.
I mean, the filmmaking was alright. Like, there were some nice shots. I actually really enjoyed the music. The use of the jump cuts. It was like one of the first times the jump cuts was used. It was really cool. But the two main characters, specifically the main character, the man, and then also the woman main character, are both so horribly unlikable and uninteresting. It sucks out all emotion and care and themes throughout the entire movie, and just makes it honestly an absolute chore to get through. And I really did not enjoy it at all. But catching this one, Vivre sa vie, so much better. Oh my god, really incredible movie that I can't recommend enough. The ending is just like shocking and horrifying. It's a really realistic, sad depiction of a woman's descent into prostitution. And not saying, obviously, prostitution and sex working is bad, but it's just this woman's specific story. Just going through the perils through that is really interesting and hard to watch, but it was definitely a really good movie. I really enjoyed it for sure. And obviously, like I said, I caught Project Power. I did enjoy that. It is weird how every single new movie these days that is slightly targeted more towards millennials has to include Machine Gun Kelly in it. I don't know why he's in every single one of these fucking movies, but Machine Gun Kelly is in every single one, including Project Power. He's fine in it. He's not in it for too long. He's serviceable for the part, so it really doesn't matter. I enjoyed it though. I thought the fight choreography was really good. And honestly, just the characters of Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and the young girl who I can't remember her name. All of their characters were just so great, and the way that they just watching them interact together and bond together and build these relationships and go through these scenarios. I honestly really enjoyed Dominique Fishback. Shout out to her. She did a great job. Some of these rapping scenes are really cool of her rapping. Shout out to Chica. She's this female rapper who's really talented, who's coming up in the game right now. And she wrote, I'm pretty sure, most of the raps for the girl in the movie for Project Power. And she also has a song in the movie. So shout out Chica. Her raps are fire. Her music's really good. Check that shit out. But I really
Chica's been in the game though.
Really? I just started listening to Chica. I haven't been listening to Chica. I've just been listening to her.
She's getting her come up now.
Yeah.
Right now she's getting her come up. So
I mean, I'm sure this movie should be big for her. Hopefully. She's super talented.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the last thing I ended up catching.
Song.
Yeah, the last thing I ended up catching besides the Mad Max series was Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa. I caught that last night, 1957. one of the early Kurosawa movies focused in feudal Japan with samurais and such, and it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just this samurai retelling of Macbeth, and it's awesome. It's easily my favorite version of Macbeth that I've consumed, and we watched and read and listened to so many different types of Macbeth in high school that this is definitely my favorite version of it, though, and I really enjoyed it. From outside of that, it was just a really funny movie, but also had these really great horror scenes, really great scenes of action, really just well shot, engaging. Yeah, it was just super enjoyable. Throne of Blood. That was, I think it's my third Kurosawa movie I've seen so far. I've seen that one, Seven Samurai, and Drunken Angel. And I loved Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood. I think I like Seven Samurai more still. Drunken Angel is just alright, but I definitely need to check out more of his movies. He's obviously, one of the best of all time. But Throne of Blood, shout out that. Great movie. And that's what I've watched this week. So yeah, that about wraps up that. That's the What We've Been Watching segments. Check out all those movies. Reply in the comments with your reviews on them, whether you like them or not. Shout out any other movies that you want us to check out, and maybe we'll check them out and shout them out next week. Moving on to the next section, though, it's the Mad Max Ranked. We're going to the topic of the week, which is obviously Mad Max Ranked this week. Let's get right into it. Nick, what is your bottom ranking? So there's 4 movies in the series, number 4. I already know what you have.
Oh, it's the one.
It's
I think it's gonna be on everyone's, but it's the last. I mean, not. It's
Thunderdome.
It's Beyond Thunderdome. I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the movie because I fell asleep in it.
You didn't even finish it, so you can't even have. You don't even have a real opinion on it. I have some shit to say about Thunderdome, but fuck you, basically. For not finishing it. You need to finish it.
I have a right to talk about it because it was fucking trash, but I saw all of it. And Mel Gibson's hair looked atrocious, and I kind of hated it. Yeah, I kind of hated what I saw of it. So I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it unless I'm inebriated, okay? So, yeah.
Okay. And Kasey, obviously.
What?
Yeah, my least favorite Mad Max movie. It's definitely Beyond Thunderdome. It just has a way different feel to it than the rest of the series that I don't think matches the world that they've set up in the other movies. That's the main reason I don't like it.
I get that. So I have let's get into Beyond the Thunderdome a little bit. I have Beyond the Thunderdome at number 3. I don't have it at number 4. We'll get into what I have at number 4 in a little bit. But for Beyond the Thunderdome, I really enjoy Beyond the Thunderdome. So I've always loved Beyond the Thunderdome, and I'd always loved it since I was young when I'd seen it, probably for when I was 12, the first time I watched it. I always loved it. It's always been one of my dad's favorites. So I've always just kind of loved it in that regard. But on this rewatch, I definitely really enjoyed it, but not for the same reasons. I understand all that campiness that's in it, and I think that's part of the charm of it. I really enjoy the campiness in this movie because they do go all out with it. It is settled, they really do focus on the campiness for the whole time, and they don't really tonally shift that much, which I enjoy because I think that is to the detriment of some of the other movies in this series where they do flip tones too often and not properly enough. And I really do enjoy it in that aspect of really just sticking to its guns and knowing what it wants to be. I just think it's a really just fun, goofy, awesome ride. That movie for sure. And maybe I'm not even sure if I think it's that great, but in the context of all the rest of them, it's definitely the third best, though. This rewatch of this series, I definitely have a whole different viewpoint on the whole series as a whole in context with the other ones. Every single spot, basically besides my top spot, changed on this rewatch of the series. And I think I enjoy this one for its originality. It feels like there's a pattern in those other three movies that is shown throughout, a pattern of like the story and plot structure that I think works in some of them, obviously, but doesn't work in others. And so I do enjoy Thunderdome for being different, you know. Also, I do think the last chase is really cool. Fuck you. I don't care that it's a train. The train's fucking cool. The cars are cool. It's still a really engaging, fun chase. The fucking thing with the plane after it's really badass too. It ties up really well emotionally. I think with the characters, the kids, I think it ties it up better than a lot of the other movies. I really do enjoy Thunderdome. I don't, like I said, you know, we're not trying to get too much into spoilers for a lot of these, but Thunderdome's awesome. But I'll
might like. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I think I might like Thunderdome more if it was not a Mad Max movie.
Okay. I understand that, and I can see that point for sure.
Yeah.
But go on.
I
You go. Sorry.
I can't really talk shit about this movie. I didn't finish it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So fuck you.
I could see this movie. Okay, whatever. Chill. It was shitty anyways. You could tell this movie would have been much better if it wasn't a Mad Max movie. Like it was like your kind of typical like 80s like journey type movie, like or like hero story basically. And it was, from what I saw of it, was pretty goofy and whatnot, and the characters were very extravagant. But I could totally see this movie being like its own thing, you know, rather than Mad Max. With the series, the franchise tied onto it definitely hinders it because of what we saw previously. Even if there is such a drastic like change from the first Mad Max to the second one.
Yeah.
We're still,
I get that for sure, but I think obviously the reasons why I disagree is the reasons for why I have what I have at number 4, which I'll reveal now, is Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. Fuck The Road Warrior. That movie is so average. That is definitely the worst of the series. This is by far the biggest change of my placement of the series on this rewatch of it. I originally had Road Warrior at second. I used to love this movie. I really enjoyed it. But on this rewatch of the series, like I've been saying, it really made me reconceptualize how I viewed each movie in the context of the series. And like I was saying beforehand, with that very structured, straightforward plot that they kind of do follow in these movies, of this sort of drifter character getting accidentally emotionally involved with some character unintentionally while having to fight off these other characters and dealing with the moral dilemma between those two and trying to eventually overcome those feelings and, you know, save others basically. And I think it's by far done the worst in this movie. And so you can see each of those elements of the characters and how they are in each of them. The first movie, it's with his wife and his son. That's where the emotional element comes into it. And the second one, the emotional element comes from kind of the townspeople. It's supposed to come from the kid, the woman, and the leader of the group, I believe, and the other townspeople. In the third one, it's for, weirdly enough, Blaster, of Master Blaster, which doesn't work there, but it does work with the kids, I do believe. And then in Fury Road, it works there with Furiosa and the wives, I believe. but it completely doesn't work at all, the emotional aspect tying down these movies, and number two, in any way with these characters. These town people are so uninteresting, undeveloped, one-dimensional characters that are just only there to serve plot points and do nothing else. Just completely takes out any emotion in any scene in the movie, and it builds this up throughout with this horribly annoying boomerang kid, and I didn't mind with the townspeople, but it was just so annoying with that
Fuck
kid.
that kid.
Obviously, fuck that kid. And then when it starts to get into that third act, then it starts to tie up into those emotional themes with the other people in the town, and it starts to do that more frequently with people, and that's when it starts to just get so muddy with that and just makes me completely lose interest and not care about it at all. And I really think those constant reminders of these horrible characters that I just think are so uninteresting and horrible really bring the movie down for me. And I think the car chases are just as good in 2 as they are in 1. And I think a lot of these movies honestly are pretty similar in level, at least with the first 3. On level, I think. I don't think Road Warrior, even though I was mad dogging on it just because I like to, it isn't like a trash movie. It's about the same ranking as I have 3, probably. Those are pretty similar. But watching it in the context with these other ones and seeing how similar all 4 of these movies are with these specific points, it makes it easier to like basically rank these points of like ranking, alright, this is the emotional character of this movie, this is like the big car chase thing of this movie, this is like the interesting gang or villain stuff, and it's basically like those 3 or 4 different points, just like ranking them how they are. And I think, and basically in all those aspects, Road Warrior is just the worst, and that's my Road Warrior rant. Fuck that movie.
Okay.
Thoughts on that, Nick?
So,
You were showing me some interesting faces.
Not my number. It's not my number 3. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's go into what you guys have for your number 3s. Nick, what do you have? You got. I feel like with how much we've been revealing it, we can basically assume what we all have for our lists at this point. But yeah, your number 3.
yeah.
My number 3 is Mad Max 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I saw it when I was a kid, and I didn't really remember much, but when I resaw it recently with you guys, it brought back a lot of like what I remembered from it. And I agree with you when you say that the story, like the emotional aspects, are much stronger, probably in this movie more than the others. But I didn't really care for that. I was honestly kind of bored of that sometimes, and also sometimes I just didn't understand what was going on. Like there was times where like they had their kid, and then they didn't have their kid for like 48 hours, and then they had their kid again, and it was the weirdest thing. It was like
they like completely disregard the kid in the first movie. It's so bizarre. That's a big criticism of it for sure. They basically just like the kid is completely irrelevant, and it's almost like a running gag at a point.
The kid is just a plot point in that movie.
It's just so that he can be like,
not only is it a plot,
oh, my kid! You know?
That's the only reason the kid exists is so he can lose him.
Yeah.
But right, exactly. They don't even care about the kid. The movie just doesn't even care.
Yeah.
But I think Mad Max 1 is really good, even if I put it in my 3rd place. And I really dig the opening scene. Like, it's not my favorite opening scene in the series, but it's close to being it, because it's really cool and really fun. And
it is one of the best like cold open, character opens for sure. That the whole time, the teasing of his face, the constant yelling of the Knight Rider, the car flips, the chases, to the very end with the explosion and the zoom in on Mel Gibson's face. Fucking perfect. For sure.
Yeah, that's definitely very cool.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kasey,
What's your number 3?
I also have Mad Max 1 on my number 3. I think it's a really cool. Since I was kind of introduced to the Mad Max universe with Fury Road, I hadn't watched any of the other ones before I saw that one. I kind of went into this one viewing it as kind of like an origin story. And I think it does a really good job at that. Just because this movie's so drastically different from all of the other ones, because it's set pre-apocalypse. Other than that, the stunts in it are pretty cool.
Oh, for sure.
I agree with most of the stuff Nick said.
It's those early. I learned this term recently. The exploitation movies. It's exploitation movies, but it's like the Australian exploitation movies of the 70s with like the big car chases and car explosions and such like that. And those early exploitation movies highlighted primarily with this first Mad Max movie. Those stunts and the way they had to film those stunts, it's all one take. You fuck up that take, it's done, and that's it. And they had to do these crazy things to get these crazy shots, and it's so impressive and so cool, and just has so much style and personality in that first one. I think is so interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Onto that,
the leather in it was fucking awesome.
Oh, the leather. The leather's good throughout all of them, and honestly, it changes, but the leather in the first one is different. The leather in the first Mad Max is just different, I don't know. Yeah, but, what were you gonna go?
I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure that the only person whose costume was actually made out of leather was Mel Gibson's.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think all the other ones are something else. I don't quite remember what.
Huh. Well,
because it was cheaper.
Possibly fuck me then, I guess. But
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Who cares? It looked awesome.
That
bald dude in that tight ass suit, bro. It was awesome.
This is so good.
Awesome.
So good. Yeah. I love the first one, obviously. I have the first one at number 2 in my series. I love this first one. This was the other really big change for me. I originally had the first one at the lowest. Fury Road also was my introduction to this series, but it was more so like Fury Road's coming out. I heard it was coming out, and my dad was a big fan of Mad Max, and he's like, we got a marathon Mad Max before Fury Road comes out. I'm like, alright. So we watched them then, and I enjoyed it then. I also just kind of thought of it as this prequel movie that was a lot slower and kind of just uninteresting. But on this rewatch, I really enjoyed it. The stunts just felt so fresh and authentic, and the emotional parts through the slowness that it builds up throughout the movie, the slowness allows it to build up these side characters and the emotional subplots, and I think it really works, and that really worked on me. And I think the ending of this first one might be the best ending of all 4 of these movies. It is the just most depressing, darkest ending, and it's just raw and so good. And I think the movie is just so good with the really high octane intensity, the great bulging eyeballs. They had it during the Knight Rider kill and then during the Toe Cutter kill. Great stuff. Just the great, super fast paced, blowing up car action, and then it really grounds it with these beautiful, in-depth side characters into this incredibly raw, realistic, personal ending that I really think ties it up in a really interesting way. And I really do think the first Mad Max is really, really incredible. Um, it's it's the second best of the series for me personally. Um, what about you guys, Nick? You on to your number two of the series. Obviously, we know your guys'
I kind
number
of want to hear
twos.
Casey's first. I want to hear Casey's first because I feel like we probably have similar answers. I'll just go off of him.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I have Road Warrior at my number two. I know
Mhm.
you don't like that one as much,
Mhm.
but I just think it's really cool. For a lot of people, this was their introduction to what Mad Max is, because this one was marketed a lot more towards like American audiences. They didn't even call it like Mad Max 2. They called it just the
The
Road
Road
Warrior.
Warrior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So one thing I would like to point out that I really like about this movie is the costume design,
Mhm.
especially for Max himself. I like that they have the like splint for his leg. I don't know if you guys saw that,
Mhm.
but he made a like scrap
Yeah,
from
dude.
cars. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And he modified his leather outfit from the police force he was in the first movie.
Mhm.
But I do agree that some of the side characters in this movie definitely aren't as thought out as the ones in Mad Max 1. But I don't think that it needed to be.
Mhm.
I'm, for me at least, I'm
I
not
agree.
really going into it with like I'm gonna get really invested emotionally in a bunch of these characters. I'm more in it for the awesome set pieces that they do. Uh,
Mhm.
Another thing I have to say about this is it I think is like what George Miller wanted to do with Fury Road, but just this is what he had,
Mhm.
especially with the
That's definitely
go ahead.
very visible. I think
Yeah,
that
Oh yeah.
that idea. This is definitely just like Fury Red Light.
yeah, especially with like the semi at the end.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. No. Mine is Road Warrior. Do you mind if I go my number one after I finish really quick
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Of
Road
course.
Warrior? Because it's obvious.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Road Warrior. Yeah, is my number two. Uh, Pretty much for a lot of the points Casey brought up, um, that the set pieces are pretty incredible. George Miller went once he got money to make a movie, uh, good, and with set pieces and shit, he went all out,
Mhm.
and you can see the vision uh, in it, and you can also see it, which is my number one, in Fury Road, big time. And you get to see what George Miller does with a bigger budget every movie.
Mhm.
And number two is super special to me uh, because it's just like pure like fun action. Like yeah, the story is pretty. The kid is annoying. I don't really care about any of the characters except for Max, but George Miller basically made it so he just needed some plot points so we can get to the action, and there was quite a bit of action in this, and I dug it, man.
Mhm.
It's really good. You said it was like a Fury Road Light. It kind of
Mhm.
is. They have a lot of similarities. One thing I
Mhm.
noticed immediately was like uh, the blood bags, the human
Mhm.
blood bags and shit.
Yeah.
Uh, which was fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. This movie, they're like screaming on. Like there's a lot of really good like practical effects and shit
Mhm. I really did enjoy the
related to
first
like
half of
the
Road Warrior.
brutality.
I think the first half of Road Warrior I think is really strong, and I think the world building is really incredible and really something to spectacle at, and I think it is super interesting for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really cool to see. You know, George Miller went full on George Miller immediately,
Mhm.
and then when he did Fury Road, he had uh better budget. He had better equipment to work with. It's 2014, 2015, and Fury Road is his best work.
Mhm.
It's a pretty easy story. Nothing really complicated at all. It's basically a road trip to
Mhm.
somewhere and then right back. Uh, and it's fantastic. It's some of the best action I've ever seen. It's some
Mhm.
of the best practical effects that I've ever seen. It's crazy how much of this movie is practical. Like most of the stuff you're seeing
Yeah.
is real. Like that
It's
fucking dude with the guitar swinging around with all those speakers
it's
behind
awesome.
him
So
in a
cool.
moving vehicle. It's real, man. That
Yeah.
shit's real,
It's way too
bro.
cool.
Yeah.
N-
Mhm.
the shit that's CGI is subtle when and it's used very well. And
Mhm.
yeah, man. The honestly, I think the coolest shit about this movie is like Immortan Joe and his uh like basically like minions, baddies or whatever, and like
The
his
War Dogs.
brothers and shit. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The War Dogs, and
Yeah.
that was I thought Toe Cutter's great, and it's the same guy that plays Toe Cutter and Immortan
Immortan Joe.
Joe, and
Yeah, he's awesome.
I th- I think villain and Road Warriors is fantastic too. Um, I think that's a really strong thing that Mad Max has going for it is it's really like just
Mhm.
badass fucking
Yeah.
villains. And yeah, man. And there's not much more I can say about it other than it's fucking awesome,
Yeah.
and it deserved
Obviously.
every single award that came towards it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Obviously, Casey and I also do have Fury Road at our number ones. Fury
Yeah.
Road, it was really just the best. Casey, do you want to talk about it for a little?
Yeah, sure. Well, I love Tom Hardy even before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Big
seeing
Tom
him as
Hardy
Max,
fan. He was the best person to pick up the series. Uh, you know, after
yeah,
obviously they had to replace someone for Mel Gibson. I think Tom Hardy's by far the best person they could have picked. He really is
yeah, it's
perfect in the role.
yeah, it has some of
Yo,
the best
honestly
action
though,
scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
100%. The really the coolest action scenes ever. I what were you gonna say, Nick? Though I cut you off.
I was gonna say honestly, you could put like fucking 60-year-old Mel Gibson in there, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't give a fuck if you put old ass Mel Gibson with long gray hair. That might have been interesting, honest
Oh
to
my
say the
god.
least.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but whatever. But Fury
They could have
Road,
done it if he wasn't a racist, I guess. I don't know.
exactly. If he wasn't a racist, it's okay. Fury Road, yeah, I think is easily by far the best of the series. Like I was saying earlier, I think a lot of the series does boil down to like 3 or 4 kind of plot structure points that it does follow in a lot of them. And I think all of those points are perfectly executed to the highest level in Fury Road. I think a lot of the movies really are so similar in that regard, and Fury Road and just basically every single aspect is just perfect in that regard. I really do think it's a perfect movie on a technical aspect. It improves on every single aspect of the original with the action, the emotion, the characters, the world building, and just amps it up to the next level while also keeping those real emotions and characters. Um, it's just so damn impressive and
Yeah,
really just is the coolest fucking movie ever.
yeah. Fury Road for me is one of my favorite movies of all time for sure.
Hmm. Easily. Yeah.
Yeah,
Big fan. Yeah, alrighty, so I think that's gonna conclude it for our topic of the week. That is our Mad Max series ranked. Obviously, we all got Fury Road at number 1. And then, did your guys' lists rank up perfectly, right? Fury Road, Road
oh,
Warrior
Yes.
1, and Thunderdome?
yeah,
Yeah? And
Yep.
then I had, obviously, Fury Road, Mad Max, Thunderdome, and Road Warrior. That's our thoughts. Send in
Obviously.
your opinions on those lists. We are going to go into a short little intermission break, and we'll be back with our more in-depth spoiler thoughts on the first Mad Max movie.
Hey guys, just wanted to pop in to let you know to stay until the end of the episode so that you can hear what the topic of the week is and what the movie of the week is for next time's episode. You want to do that so that you can remember to write in. Remember to DM us on Instagram or Twitter, either your response to the movie topic of the week or the movie review of the week, and then we will discuss them and share our opinions on that. So stay until the end of the episode so that you can hear what we are talking about next week. I also wanted to give a huge shout out to Anchor. They're the free to use podcasting app. It is on any app store. You can also use the computer version. It is incredibly easy to use and accessible for anybody. Remember, it is free and accessible, and I couldn't do without them. Huge shout out to them. Thanks for listening, and let's get back into the episode.
Alright guys, what's up? And we're back right into it, into our spoiler version of Mad Max. This is the 1979 movie by George Miller, written and directed by him. One of the early exploitation movies. We were talking about that movement earlier. I kind of want to get into that a little bit first, just because I'm kind of new into that sort of Australian New Wave movement, and I do think it's pretty interesting. The first movies I've obviously seen of this kind of section was the Mad Max movies back when I'd watched them originally. I was probably like 12 or something. But I had recently watched The Cars That Ate Paris. I think it came out in 1974. This is directed and written by Peter Weir. He did The Truman Show, Master and Commander, Witness. Very, very famous director. A big fan of Peter Weir. And The Cars That Ate Paris is a really interesting exploitation movie. It's a slow burn drama of this town that causes car accidents and salvages the parts, and that's how their economy is ran off of that basically. And it's about this dude who gets trapped in that town, and it's just really interesting look at that. And that movie really visually primarily has some really interesting influences on specifically Mad Max, but also lots of other movies that came after it that I think is really interesting and worth noting. Kubrick, apparently it was one of his top 100 movies of all time or whatever. Super interesting movie for sure. It has this really great wide scope lens that I think is used pretty interesting in Mad Max as well, capturing the landscape of Australia during these really up close, interesting car chases. I think is something that works really well. And then the biggest thing that is kind of shown in this movie that's the biggest influence is that spiked VW bug, that awesome bug that's in Fury Road with the spikes all around it, debuted originally in this movie. It's on the poster for this movie. It shows them finally at the end of it. It's a really interesting car. And there's also some other really great car designs in that movie that had some really big influences on Mad Max and other car style movies of that genre, that I just kind of wanted to highlight that movie and kind of shout that out, because I do think that was a really interesting movie and has just lots of great influence on it for sure. That's The Cars That Ate Paris. Check that out for sure. But now we'll kind of go more into Mad Max on that. So obviously we did talk about it a little bit earlier with our list on how it kind of ranked on there. Did get a little bit too excited and talked about it a little bit more than I probably wanted to, but we will go more into the spoilers now. Nick, what are some more thoughts on this first Mad Max movie?
Yeah,
Nick?
so I already said it was in my number 3. I liked it a lot, but I just didn't really care for any of the main story.
So I do want to get into that, the how you guys didn't really care too much about that emotional aspect of it, which I do think is interesting. why you wouldn't, because I do like. I think that's part of the
There
best
was
part
like
about
there
it,
was
and I think that's
there
kind
was
of
no
part of the best part about like Fury Road as well. So sort of those real human, emotional ties that it brings in with specifically the wife
Fury,
characters. Um, I think it
yeah, Fury Road
does.
is the best story out of them all.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
The,
not doubting. I'm
the
not
reason
denying that.
the reason why I didn't like Mad Max 1's like plot as much is it was just kind of I just didn't care about the characters because there was like barely any. I don't know. I just didn't feel anything for these characters. They were like just established as Mad Max's wife and kid, and I just like I don't know. There were moments in this movie where it seemed like the movie just didn't care, or like
I feel like a good example of when it did is with Goose. I feel like they fleshed Goose out pretty well. He's
Yeah.
the couple in the motorcycle.
The partner. I agree. I think they do a really good job at
they
yeah.
established Goose as like they established him as like a tertiary character, but yeah, he totally like is way more like interesting than any of like what has to do with his kid and shit. Like,
Well, I mean,
I don't know, man. Like,
yeah. I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah. Goose is more interesting than the kid. That's saying like a little piece of shit in the movie is more interesting than the kid. The kid's basically not even a part of the movie. The kid isn't even like a factor in the movie, and that's not part of the emotional impact I'm talking about. When I'm talking about that and those interesting side characters, I am talking about those characters like Goose, and then like the wife that I thought was so interesting, and like not really, but sort of the grandma character, just another character that I thought
I didn't
just
even-
like
I didn't
caring.
even understand why she was in the movie.
I also didn't understand what she was. I
Like,
also
I didn't-
don't
I-
understand
maybe I
who
missed
she
something.
is, but it was just kind of another character
Exactly, yeah.
that was in the world that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's
Oh, okay.
Jess's aunt, if I remember
Hmm.
right.
Yes,
Maybe.
she's an aunt. That's right. But like, I was like, I don't give a fuck about her. Like,
Yeah.
why are we introducing characters like 2/3 into the movie? I don't know.
Yeah.
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 No,
I just
I-
don't care. I did love the fucking actions. I loved all the fucking driving scenes and shit. Like,
Mhm.
you said it was kind of sleeper, but honestly, like, George Miller was already establishing this thing where he like kind of sped it up, but he like chopped the frames. So he slowed the frames down in the movie. No, he raised the. No, yeah, he chopped the frames, so it was kind of stuttery, and he used this a lot in Road Warrior, and he used it the best in Fury Road, especially like in the very beginning chase
Mhm.
scene. It's really cool, because the camera work in it is just really good, and that's
Mhm.
just that's what
I
you
think-
gotta get with.
I think there's a really
And I
great.
appreciated a lot of that stuff way more than the story itself.
Mhm. I get that. I do think there's this really great, almost like documentary film style esque way that comes with this first Mad Max movie that I think is so interesting. It just comes with those budget limitations, but it in a lot of the scenes it really, even though it is like almost hyper stylized at times, it still almost feels like it reminds me of that French New Wave of like the documentary handheld style, like going out, really bare bones film production style that I think really makes it. It adds a level of realism and personality to it that I think makes it really interesting. And yeah, that does tie into those really great action scenes. I think those are just completely revolutionary. How they filmed those and how they choreographed them and stunted them are just really mind blowing stuff that they could have done there. We've talked about it throughout the whole series, but I think it's almost the most impressive in this first movie, purely based on like what they had to deal with at the time and the budget limitations. I do think it does
Yeah.
make it more impressive. Now, I'm not sure, should that weigh into how good you think the movie is? I don't know, but I think it is an interesting thing to bring up with how just amazing these car scenes look, with the limitations that they have. And on top of that, with these limitations, I mean, it's obviously a staple in the whole series. The beautiful production and costume designing is just on another level, and I do think it does do it better. And obviously, Fury Road, and I have to say, in Road Warrior, those costumes and production design really is incredible in those movies, I think. But there is this really interesting. Here, you go. Actually, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Casey actually brought up that he really liked the costume design in Road Warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and I looking back, like Fury Road was kind of generic, but every other one was like cool, honestly. But Road
Did you say
Warrior,
Fury Road was
especially, like,
generic?
oh yeah, 100%. Like all the wives and shit are like basically in rags and shit. It's like it's not really that interesting. But in like Fury Road, the fucking baddies in that look awesome. They look really cool and like really hot, and like there's like BDSM shit going on. I dig it, man.
Yeah, with
George
humongous with
Miller
his
went off on that.
bulging
Yeah.
head.
Yes.
That
He looked
yeah.
like fucking Jason, bro. He looked like
Yeah.
Jason in a gimp suit. Let's go.
the assless chaps. Yeah, the costumes in
yes.
Road Warrior were fucking awesome for sure. But
And the
there.
hair. The hair was amazing.
Oh my god, yeah. A lot of those like great mohawks, so good. But there is this kind of stripped down, bare bones realism to the first one that I think works so well. I really think this first movie is really just such a gem of a movie, with so much of it just ended up working out so perfectly, with like all of these limitations that they had with the budget and the filming and the time, the style that they're doing, and the styles of movies that were coming out, and the pressure that they had. All of these things perfectly work together for this specific movie, building on those specific
You know what-
aspects.
Do you know what the budget was for the movie?
No.
350,000.
350,000. Okay, that is
Jeez.
very cheap. That is dirt cheap. It's just so impressive, and I think that those aspects are not only noteworthy, but they really do add to so much of this specific first movie, since it is sort of that prequel movie of before the apocalypse, or on the outskirts of it. I think it really does add to those into production design and costuming, to really make you feel the time period that it is in. I think it does a really good job of building this world. It's the first time that you're introduced into this Mad Max world, and I think it does a really perfect job of setting you into this world, but not going crazily overboard with it and, like, say, being too much for a first time,
They don't throw you in, they kind of edge you in.
Exactly. And there's not an issue with throwing you into a crazy world, for sure. Like, lots of movies do that great, but I think there is a really beautiful art to it of that really fine line of the in-between that they ride really perfectly in this first movie, that I think does make it just so beautiful and interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great themes in this movie. Obviously, we like to go into themes here. We're a movie podcast. We talk about the in-depth themes of the movies. There's some really great themes in this movie that I think are really impressive. How they bring these ideals up of these sort of anti-cop themes, these anti-capitalism themes, and also themes of greed and such like that. They bring up these really kind of broad topics of those and a few other ideas, but they don't bog you down with it. They really do make sure that with all of this, that this movie could have been a total fucking mess with right before it's that fine line of right before the apocalypse. Could have gone too crazy with the costumes. Could have gone too tame on some of the stuff. Could have gone way too heavy-handed with the themes. Could have gone not cool enough with the car chases. But it really does ride the fine line on so many of those aspects, and the themes in it of those ideals that I think are so important and prevalent in today's society, I think are brought up in a way in this movie that doesn't become overbearing. And I think honestly is like you can really watch this movie in just a purely fun adrenaline way. Those great scenes, and but then there's also just so much to chew on with this movie with those interesting themes and the really rich characters and emotions that come from those. All of those things, I really think there's those two interesting ways that you can view this movie that really, really do elevate it into something super special, I believe.
Yeah, and another part that I kind of wanted to talk about is just some of the limitations that they had with the film itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The end product that they got with what they had to deal with is just amazing. Because, I mean, they couldn't even get permission to film a lot of the scenes on the roads that they went on.
Mm-hmm. That's just, it's insane. Wasn't a lot of it filmed on like one or like two roads probably? Something like that?
You found some roads that have like long stretches and made it work, but
yeah.
They couldn't use like walkie-talkies or anything either. So George Miller called it guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah. And it really does feel that way to the extreme, of that it's almost like that documentary filmmaking style, which is just so fucking cool and really just adds a different level of interestingness to this level, or to this movie. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, and you got any
Kasey,
final thoughts?
Well, I was wondering. This movie's kind of like the whole series has this underlying theme of like anti-fracking, and like this big message of like what it's gonna be. No, it's not. It's just like a message of like oil and shit. Like at the time, like we're still doing this shit where we're going overseas and taking oil from countries and killing people over it and shit. Like it's a lot of those themes and messages are very prevalent in Mad Max, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Coming from us, yeah.
Still facing the same issues.
Yeah, a lot.
Oh yeah.
So many relevant themes and issues that this movie, all of these movies bring up, that are just absolutely timeless.
Yeah. Also, one last thing I want to mention, because I didn't mention it before, in Road Warrior, something like these movies are pretty good at is like bringing down the female gaze and bringing it back to like the male gaze and giving like guys assless chaps, giving them like skin tight suits. Like it's I don't know. I like that shit. Like
for sure.
Was,
it's undeniable almost looking at these movies in a really progressive way. In this society, in viewing these movies in this time, it's hard not to see so much of this movie as like you could almost see it as like a gay rights progressive movie in some ways. Not the first
Which one?
Road Warrior specifically,
Road Warrior?
but I think more of just like the series themes in general. That I think is just interesting. It's just one of the lots of really small, interesting things of this series that I think you can talk about. I think there's just so many small details in all of these movies that are just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's probably gonna wrap up our final thoughts on that movie. We'll go in for scores that we gave this movie. I gave this movie a 4 stars out of 5, which comes out to basically be like an 8 out of 10. Nick, shut the fuck up. I don't care that you don't like this review type of system. Kasey, what do you give this movie?
I'll give it. I'd say a 4 out of 5 too. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And Mad Max is one of my favorite series, other
Yeah.
than 3.
Mm-hmm.
Thunderdome.
Well, fuck you.
I skipped that one if I'm going on
Yeah.
the marathon, to be honest. But
Whatever.
yeah, I'd say 4 out of 5 for Mad Max one.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nick?
I guess that would be a 3.5 for me for Mad
3.5,
Max one.
okay.
I dig it. I love it. I really like the style of the movie, and yeah, it's good.
Right on. Yeah. So that's our reviews of Mad Max. We are going to go into those little reviews that we get from our viewers. So you can send in your own response to the topic of the week and the movie review of the week, and we can bring them up and discuss them on here. So obviously, we don't got very many people that write in right now, but we got 2 this week. We got my dad, shout out Steve Nestor, wrote in. Obviously I was talking about earlier, big fan of the Mad Max movies. Definitely introduced me into this series. He agrees with me on the ranking though, with the Fury Road 1, Thunderdome, Road Warrior. That's how he views it, and he's a big fan of this first movie. He kind of gave me some general thoughts on the series in general. He's watched it since, it first originally came out, and he loves this first one. Actually, never mind. I read it wrong. I thought he had the movies in a different order, but that's that order. I know obviously how you guys feel about Thunderdome and having Road Warrior so far down, but. Gotta say, great list. Very, I definitely agree with that point. Definitely a very strong list, I think. And then Trevin also wrote in. He wrote in his list. And who would have guessed it? It follows your guys's, the exact same, with Fury Road 2, 1, 3. Who'd have thunk it? Is there maybe a hive mind mentality going on where he just believed what Kasey was telling him about the movies? Maybe.
No, you're just super special, Jacob, because you love Thunderdome.
Yeah. This is what he said about the first movie. He said the first movie is really great considering the limitations George Miller had. I thought some of the effects are really great alongside some of the stunts were cool as hell. I felt it slowed down a bit too much in the middle section after Max quitting the police force, but other than that, I was very engaged for the most part. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do think it does get slow after that a little bit, but I definitely am interested in it because I really enjoy the character of his wife and just watching them interact and doing such together, doing random stuff. I really enjoyed watching. So I do think it slows down, but I do enjoy that. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think that was like a perfect summary of how I feel about that next one.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Alrighty, so I think that's going to wrap it up for today. That's our review on the Mad Max series, and the first one went pretty well. Nice. That's the series ranked up. I'm going to go down my list again. Obviously, Fury Road 1, 3, then 2. Love these movies. 4 out of 5 on this one. Go check out the YouTube cast. This will be up on there alongside the past podcasts and Closet Quickies. You can also check out the audio cast on whatever podcast listener you're listening to, Anchor, Spotify, Overcast, whatever. Link put in the comments what you're listening to on. But that's going to do it for this week. You can follow the official Instagram and Twitter at InTheClosetWJN, or you can also check out my personal Instagram, Twitter, or Letterboxd at JacobNestor568. check out both of those for updates on the podcast, Closet Quickies, whatever's coming out. Nick, you got anything you want to shout out?
Follow my letterbox. Nick Sailing.
Nick Sailing. Kasey, you got anything?
Not really.
Right on. All right. Join us next week for we're going to be doing our top 3 Batman movies. That is live action and animated. And then we're going to go in depth on our thoughts on The Dark Knight. Join us next week on that. Like and leave a review of this show. Share with your friends. And thanks for listening, guys.